Teach a man how to fish, and you'll feed him for a lifetime. Don't teach a man how to fish because fishing is difficult and you gotta feed yourself. Okay? There's only so many fish, right? So you can't go around just teaching people. Plus, you probably don't even know that fish, how to fish that well. One thing you don't know about fish, right? I sure don't. Still, I know they're in water, right? I mean, we can get that out of the way. The first time I ever went fishing, this will clear things up. I was a kid, a wee lad. Well, I was a kid, and I got woken up at the crack of dawn. Nobody even told me we were going fishing. And when you get woken up at the crack of dawn, one, that is a cool way to say some sort of daytime, right? Like midnight, that's pretty dope. And at the crack of dawn, and then you got like noon, not so, or the afternoon. See how they're cheating? They're getting lazy. It's because they need to take a nap. And then you get to midnight. That's cool. And then the crack of dawn. But anyways, so you get woken up at that time and you're thinking, are we going to Disneyland? No, you're going fishing. And that's also a time in your life where you go, wait a minute, not somewhere where I know is fun. Well, I want to go back to sleep. The sun isn't even up, right? It's barely even, we could see the crack. But no such luck. They say, you're going fishing and wake up your brother. I got to do it? Why do they always leave it to, they got enough energy to wake up one person and then they leave you to do the dirty work. So I'm the easy one to wake up? Who knows? That ain't true. Nowadays, I wake up like I'm on and I'm ready to go. But back then, not so much, and also not for fishing. But my mom was trying to take me and my brother out for an adventure, which doesn't make any sense because my mom hates the water. Like, not only hates the water, like, she doesn't swim. We had a pool, and I saw her one time in the small end, right? And she was like, I'm doing it. And I was like, no, you're in the small. She once fell out of a boat. This was much later. I don't know how she got convinced to get in a boat, but she was in a boat on a river going down and she fell out the boat. I think she just gave up. I think she's like, nope, not today. I'm not doing whatever this is. Cause there she went down the river outside of the boat. It was terrifying. So, but we were kids at this point. So this is much, earlier for doing all this. And so we're out there fishing. And clearly, none of us know what we're doing. It turns out my mother decided, let's just take the boys and go fishing, and it'll be like an experience. Oh my God, we got live bait. So there's different kinds of bait. I had to learn all this stuff. I still don't know it. But there's live bait where the stuff you put on the hook to like bait the fish, come here, is alive. It's like worms, and that's you open up like a little like bucket of mud, and then you got to go searching for worms. It's not a fun experience. Like that is not. It's not what you want. Like sometimes you open up a canister, and like things jump out at you. You open up and you get dirt. And then you gotta go searching for. We dropped a worm, and my mom. You just hear shrieking. I mean, the whole canyon. Because when you're up at the crack of dawn, the water is so still. It's like a mirror. You can see your own reflection. There are no movements at all whatsoever, except for us doing our little rowboat action. Which, if you don't get that perfectly in sync, you're just going around in a circle. You're just like, what? How is this not moving anywhere? Oh, you gotta work together, and circle again. So I think we made it out maybe 10, 20 feet. I don't know. I was pretty dizzy. And so then we dropped a worm, and you just start hearing shrieking because now there's a worm loose in a boat that's shaking. I don't think my mom's very good at swimming, and this is a lake, So what is this, over 2? And so I think we got the worm and we had to put it on the hook. Oh my goodness, I couldn't do that because one, I couldn't see. I might as well have hooked my thumb. That happened one time. Not this time though. But you put the worm on there and then we started casting out. You know, when you throw it out there, that's the most fun. That's like you're Indiana Jones. You're like, wow. And then apparently there's then a skill to do something else. I only knew that part. I literally just like throwing it and then reeling it back, going nothing. Well, I don't even know where I was throwing it. I just knew I was throwing it, you know, out of the boat. That was the key. My brother, on the other hand, he was catching everything but fish. I mean, you know how sometimes you take a metal detector to the beach and find some cool stuff? No need. Just give my brother a fish hook. And I mean, at first it was like seaweed, and you're like, well, that's not what we want. That's not what anybody wants because it's stuck, and then you can't. And it's no fun. You can't do anything with it. But then you start pulling out a shoe. Like he found a shoe and then like a bucket, and then we were like, "What is happening?" At one point, I was like, "Hey, if we find the other shoe." Not that I'm in the need for new shoes. And not that they're new shoes, they're in the bottom of a lake, but beggars can't be choosers. If you find two pairs of shoes and one, it looked like my size, or it would eventually be because I'm growing. I was a kid, so I knew eventually I'd fit in that shoe if we found the other one. I'm going way too off about this shoe. I don't even know if there was a shoe. But all of a sudden, my brother caught something. And I don't think I can use Loch Ness anymore because I think I've overplayed it. Although I'm using it right now. But what other creatures live in the lake? Right? It's not the Kraken. That's the ocean. Right? You're not going to find like a giant octopus in the lake. So, I mean, Loch Ness is up. And I'm telling you, it was something because the boat started rocking unbelievably, uncontrollably. I mean, it was either that or like when like a motorboat like drives by and creates that wake, and then you start like rocking all over the place. You're like, hey, I'm fishing. Um, but we're sitting there and the boat's rocking back and forth, and he's trying to reel it in, and I'm sitting there going, oh, he's got the biggest fish in this lake, and we're gonna be eating for a year. How do you eat a fish? I already know I mean I know when I buy it from the store, but I don't. And I know there's a process, but anyways, not with this sucker. This thing was huge, and so the boat's rocking back and forth, rocking, and he's reeling it in, and the boat's and we're almost tipping. We're about to capsize, right? All nautical terms coming right at you. And we had to stop them because we were getting so close to all going in the water and being eaten by the creature that we were trying to pull up from the depths, right? So we were like, this has got to end. And all of a sudden, once all the rattling stops, we realized that somehow the hook was on the boat. The whole time. What? He had somehow, and I know what you're thinking. At first, like he cast it this way, and it just like hooked onto the boat, and then the whole time he would. But what somebody would have noticed that. But somehow the line was that way, and it had gone down underneath the water, up back around, and then hooked back onto the boat. And so he had hooked the boat, and that's why the whole thing was going crazy. Oh my goodness. So I think that was the end of that fishing trip because sometimes you can only have so much excitement. Because at first you think, oh, after this, there's nothing else we can do. We caught the biggest thing in here. And this is our first time fishing. Turns out we caught ourselves. And so instead of, going any further with this madness, I think we decided to hightail it out of there. But, all's well that ends well. There was this time I hooked my finger. It was years later. And so when I figured you could add a little booze to the mix. Because sometimes some of the joys of being out in the outdoors is fake moonshine. Because sometimes they'll sell you this fake moonshine that still has like a high alcohol content, and you won't even feel your thumb. I'm telling you right now, I had just a few sips. I was out there fishing in the river, doing my whole cast and reel it in thing. Nothing fancy. Someone would be like, "Hey, you see that fish?" Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I don't see no fish, but so I'm casting out, and I'm casting. I'm reeling it back in, and all of a sudden, at first I think I got something, And so I tried to like get it onto the kind of the shore and went to go grab it, and I just grabbed the hook. And I didn't even feel anything. And someone's like, dude, that hook's in your thumb. I'm like, oh my goodness. Finally, a catch. 'Cause sometimes you got to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Because it had been, I still hadn't caught a fish to that day, right? No fish caught in my repertoire. My brother had gone deep sea fishing. He probably pulled up like a shipwreck, because we all know he ain't catching fish. He's, grabbing everything else. He's sonar for the sea. So I'm stuck with the thing in my thumb. I get that out of there, and I go, okay, one more time. You got to give it one more. You throw a little maybe Band-Aid, or maybe you put it in the water because sharks. Oh, I think only sharks get attracted by the. But anyways, I'm getting a fish. Dang it! I'm trying all the tricks of the trade. You ever see those people who go out and like grab it by the hand? I tried that a few times, and then when you have no skill whatsoever, you just look. Well, imagine me walking out in the water just trying to grab things. One, I'm blind in the first place, so I'm literally just like punching the water. I'm just upset, really. It's just like the fishing didn't work, so and then you can create like a spear and throw it, and literally that's just an excuse to throw stuff at the water, which gets old after a minute. Especially if someone's like, "You trying to fish?" You're like, "Yeah. I almost had him." Had what? I don't know. I took the stick and I threw it like that, and it hit in the no. And then the only thing I did catch was a tadpole. Finally, long story short, it was a tadpole that was caught. And of course, I released that sucker because, it's a tiny little sucker. What am I supposed to do with a tadpole? I might as well have been a tadpole. It was almost one of those moments where it's like I caught it, and then I wanted no one else to know I caught it and everything. They're like, "Oh, you finally caught something," and then you pull it out and it's a tadpole, and everyone's like, "Oh, no, that's for a tadpole. That's a big one, because they have to give you some sort of benefit. I need a lot of benefits, because that thing was a tadpole, and I wanted to put that thing back safely in the water and go, oh no, didn't catch a thing. Because now you gotta tell that story, right? Because somebody saw you, and they're gonna want you to tell that story of you catching a tadpole trying to catch a fish forever. I wouldn't be able to feed very many people if it was up to fishing. If it came down to me and the fish, I could try the dynamite technique, but I don't think that's sanitary. You can't be throwing dynamite into a lake and hoping to catch fish, but it could work, I suppose. Probably not okay, right? Okay, won't be doing that. I don't even know where you could find the fish. So with that, instead of actually learning how to fish, I'll probably just go watch somebody fish and go, hey, that looks easy, because it looks easy from afar, especially when you haven't done it in a while. So I might do that. Don't rely on me to catch anything though. All right, well, we'll catch you guys all next time. Until next time, bye bye.